So I've invented the world I see. You're not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. You are not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. You will see it or not see it as you wish. So you will see it or not see it as you wish. It was brilliant, I thought. While you want it, you will see it. I think this will be good for a few people. While you want it, you will see it. I think that's good. That's brilliant. When you no longer want it, it will not be there for you to see. I think this is hilarious. I mean, I don't know that. Okay, so I'll give my interpretation of that. I've invented the world I see. So everything that's held within my ego creates what I believe the Course calls perception within the world. Perception is actually I'm seeing a world which is a filter of all my ego belief systems. You know, I see things or I don't see things according to what exists within my ego. So actually the world I see is just it's like through all the perceptual filters of my ego, it's constructing an image. And that's the world I see. So like for example, I might be addicted to green plants. I mean, I'm not, but you know, if I was addicted to green plants, then that would be something that would be very, very strong in my consciousness, or I'd see it everywhere. But as soon as when it becomes like that, when there's so much interest or projected meaning or identification with any external object or internal thought pattern, then it becomes an aspect of my world, you see, the world that I see. So the Course is stating, I'm not the victim of the world I see. And for me that's a statement of truth. But it seems like I live in an illusory world where I'm the victim of all kinds of things that I see on the outside or on the inside, within my inner world. And it's saying that I've invented it. You will not see it as you wish. While you want it, you will see it. When you no longer want it, it will not be there for you to see. I mean, this is very esoteric, but it's true. Everyone, and I share about. I share about the noise that I've shared frequently in this thing, because it's something I'm sure everyone can identify with. You know, like I was talking here, and there was a lot of traffic, and then I was saying, did everyone hear the traffic? And I didn't hear it until I pointed it out. Oh, then when you listen for it, or you have interest for the noise outside, then you hear it. But if you're not interested in the noise outside, you actually don't hear anything. So it's actually, so that discounts the ego's arguments that, oh, if it's real, then you must hear it. Actually, you don't hear, you don't see anything that has lost its ego projections or identification or meaning. It doesn't mean that if you let everything go, there's nothing. It just means you'll get vision, which is the truth. The truth shall be revealed to the extent that you let go of the artificial. So the ego is just creating separation or illusion. And the more dense, you know, when all the physical ailments like depression or addiction or very, very strong ailments occur, my understanding is, I mean, the Course talks about guilt, but generally the negative emotions, shame, guilt, fear, anger, all of those negative emotions, or you could say, I think as a global name, guilt, that then creates what you could, I heard someone coin the phrase, I don't know who, separation anxiety. You know, the separation anxiety which can be fulfilled by some kind of mental construct. You know, it could be like buying a pet, or it could be, I don't know why I said that, but anyway, it could be buying a pet, or it could be whatever it could be symbolized by in the external world, you see, that will then block off, or it could be alcohol or drugs, or it could be food, or it could be all kinds of things, or it could even be symbolic, ego-symbolic things like power, money, prestige, you know, or a title, or a car, or various things the ego can go into. To what it's saying, this was the solution to alleviate my separation anxiety, or to alleviate the suffering or the physical anxiety that goes in. So actually, and I say this too, the suppressed feelings, releasing the suppressed feelings and cancelling the beliefs, or no longer believing in those thoughts, then allows you to get to more expanded states of consciousness, i.e. states which are less limited. So you start to lose, first you start to lose the fear, then you lose the identification with the body, then you start to feel more expanded, more connected everywhere you go. And then you get to the more subtle areas where you realize that you're not a thing any longer, you see, and so you're now into the realms of what would be described classically as oneness or limitlessness experiencing. So yeah, so that's my interpretation, and now we can do it. The course is just giving us for me, 365 ways of dismantling the ego. So the lesson today, I've invented the world I see. So it's like really slamming the ego's idea that it knows what it sees. Yeah.
What comes is I've invented that so I see it, but I had this question coming, okay, what if I did not know? What if I was sick,
yeah,
and I didn't know I'm sick?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if well, you see, when I say the ego is invented, there's the conscious beliefs and there's the unconscious beliefs of the ego. And I would, since I believe in past lives, you also have the beliefs from past incarnations as well. So some of them not conscious. So some of them, you're not really aware. Like, as I used to be a food addict, so it'd be like suddenly if, yeah, go on.
Yeah, but what comes is like, what if you were a divine food addict? You know what I mean? I have no idea if that makes sense, but it really came. Like, if I didn't know what's the symptoms, that this is a symptom.
Yes.
If I was not aware of this being a symptom, would I still experience disease? I don't think so. I'll just experience my experience, which is, say, I don't know, cough.
You would experience it, you see.
Yeah, but if I did not know that it's, if I had no idea about this being something that should not be here, what would my real experience be?
You'd still have the physical sensation. You just wouldn't be mentally labeling it.
Exactly. And if I did not label it,
yes,
would that make any difference? Would that really exist? I mean, as I know that it would be in form, but would that form really have power over us?
Well, you see, because the ego is like at the lower levels of consciousness. I'll give the example. Like people who are at low, like I was at a very low level of consciousness, which for me meant that I had a lot of suppressed feelings, and I had like an overload of ideas and beliefs, which were food will make me happy, power, money, prestige, success will make me happy, a good relationship will make me happy, and I felt extreme disconnection. For me, that extreme disconnection was two components. One is I was an addict by nature, which meant that anytime life didn't go my way, I would do some form of activity. Food, it could be the internet, it could be food, not alcohol in my case, food, the internet, or just going in mental thoughts of success, or how can I, this massive goal, and I'd be frantic with all these thoughts. So it's like an overload of belief systems and thoughts. And I'd never feel my feelings, and a huge backlog of suppressed feelings. So for me, that's a very low vibration. That huge block to the authentic nature means that I'm actually experiencing a lot, because I'm highly identified with my thought patterns, the world, and everything. So I feel pain enormously, you see. I feel separation. Like I'd be locked in this body, I'd see bodies, and I'd be projecting, like if I was in fear, I'd be projecting like everyone's scary in some way, or everyone's going to be judging me in some way. So that thing means I'm really experiencing the world. If I had a toe pain, that vibration, I mean, I'd really experience it because I'm so disconnected. As you clear all the junk away, forgive everything, surrender, you're not a victim of everything, feel all the feelings out, you don't actually experience things. Things become more like very, very distant, and they just wash off you quite. Everyone's noticed this with days. I mean, I'm not saying anything unusual. When you're really, really spiritually connected, it's like nothing touches you on the day. It's like
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It's like so you get these artificial, but when you get to the higher levels, that's like your thing all the time. The world hardly, they say, like, what was it, St. Francis or someone, it's like you're wearing the world like a loose garment. It's like nothing touches you. It's like people are shouting and screaming, and yet you don't really hear it. It just washes off. The one thing is, I'd say that if you have a lot of guilt, it will, as I see it, manifest as a need for self-punishment. So the field of like how one gets guilt. I mean, they're just the normal ways. Guilt by indulging in addiction, which is not the truth. Guilt by behaviors, which really, if you just want to look at the defects of character, but for me it's just simply acting in accordance, because you're so blocked off and in separation, you're doing actions which are harmful to oneself or others, and they're not coming from a place of wholeness, or the being out of the world of illusions and separation. So now one seems to be an autonomous entity, but something knows, like if I steal some money from someone, it will often layer up, or if I abuse the body by having like 20 donuts, or whatever it is, or if I relate to someone with anger. So all of these will, and then I may suppress the feelings later on, all of these will then, these are forms of the accumulation of guilt. Now, for me, like I was just sharing, to the extent there are more belief systems, and there's more of, when there's more belief systems and more suppressed feelings, one tends to have this huge reservoir of what I'd call guilt, shame, anger, self-pity, all of I call it, for me the Course is saying it's an umbrella, all the negative emotions. So these becomes a whirl, which means that the thoughts become more frantic, and the behaviors which are utilizing the external world to get relief from this pit of separation, the pit of emptiness. So it could be, the ego will go alcohol, drugs, pets, all kinds of things can start to become very, very, because there's such separation anxiety and there's so much guilt. Now, mystically, this is the way I see it, I mean, you can disagree, is that the guilt then acts like a magnetic field from the collective to pick up behaviors or activities or illnesses which symbolize self-punishment. So what kind of behaviors or illnesses can symbolize, it's like the guilt is almost, if you could verbalize, I need punishment because I'm holding so much guilt. So in different people, you may pick up from the collective different things which symbolize punishment. It could be a behavior. For, as someone who's got such disconnection and guilt and overwhelming feelings, I could suddenly pick up from the collective addiction. I could become a food addict, or I could become an addict in something else, or I might manifest an illness. Like I manifested kidney failure. But paradoxically, the Chinese who'd been studying the acupuncture meridians and the energy flow lines, I remember in the early days when after I had the kidney failure, I went to an acupuncturist. It was a training school, and he was just plugging in, kidney failure, all the needles into the body. And then he came up to me at the end and he whispered in my ear, and he said, like, the kidneys are on the meridian of fear, in the energy, and they know that each meridian has an emotion, which when the emotion gets out, you tend to cut the energy flow through that meridian, and then all the organs tend to start to die on that line. The heart has a certain meridian, the kidneys, the livers. So he said to me, it's fear, and I was living in so much guilt and fear of everything. For me, when you're advanced, it's different. You have periods of fear, but I was like fear every day, like a huge wet blanket. I mean, It's not like when you've done a lot of spiritual work where you can go up and down. It was like that was my constant state of dread and fear. So you know, I had kidney failure, that meridian had blocked out, I had addictions, so it's like these, I was trying to punish, you know, these symbolic punishments were coming. You know, for me, like with Hawkins and doing the course, you know, like Hawkins lost 20 illnesses just by cancelling and feeling out the feelings. And he had people losing cancer, AIDS, all of that stuff disappearing. Because as you feel these feelings out and you cancel the belief systems, like I need a donut to feel happy, I need to be a bit thinner, I need to be a bit more powerful and glamorous, all of those things, you let all of that go and you feel out the feelings and start trying to act out on certain behaviours, then these illnesses start to disappear. It's like the magnet that was holding the behaviours and the illnesses starts to dissipate. You're going into the fields of non-form, you know, limitless oneness, and that is the field of ultimate love. So, you know, all these, you know, like I've had the kidney failure go, the gout go, the asthma go, and it's like, you know, I understood it, you know, with the guilt, you know, the guilt and all the manic thinking, we could say thinkingness and frantic trying to find a solution externally. When all of that goes, there's an inner peace and stillness, and it's like a trust, you know, that when you connect to the oneness or the beingness, then all these things, like, you know, that was the, you're starting to be free of that guilt magnet, which is just trying to hook in. I'm not saying, you know, it's been a one-day journey to get rid of so much stuff. You know, I mean, I spent quite a lot of years now. So, and these belief systems, and sometimes, you know, people who are doing spiritual work, they make a lot of progress and they get hit by a big whammy. And that happens as well for me. It's like you're making huge progress, but now there's a certain thing within the ego that you now have the power to deal with. So it's like God sort of says, okay, you're making such great progress. Now this pattern within you sort of manifests in the world. It could be a major illness, or it could be a major thing with a relationship, or something happens, so that you now have the capacity to deal with it. So, okay, so I'd like us to do the lesson together, which will, because for me it's the practical, like, you know, as we do the lesson together, it's like, how do you let go of the, you know, it's also, every lesson for me is to do with guilt in the Course in Miracles, you see. Today's lesson, which I keep forgetting, I've invented the world I see. Well, you see, the ego can, you know, kidney failure, I invented that. You know, for me, kidney failure represents some of the fear-based collective belief systems of separation and punishment that exist. You know, it's an idea within the collective consciousness of humanity, like, you know, I deserve an ailment. You know, I deserve to feel suffering. I deserve suffering. Guilt means I need punishment, suffering. So the collective of humanity has manifested kidney failure, asthma, bad relationships, all kinds of addictions. So we were getting out of the nightmare. So I invented kidney failure. I invented food addiction. I've invented bad neighbours. I've invented, you know, all these. I've invented that I need a substance to suddenly get out and feel connected. You see, I invented all of these, as these ideas loop. Because for me, the Course, one of my favourite things with the Course is it mentions, you know, form and going to the formless, you know, and that's for me a very, very simplistic way of cutting through. It's like, how is my ego hooked into form? It's then you get very, very simple. It gets very, very simple. You know, am I hooked into a thought, a limiting idea? Am I linked into, like, gazing at the tea bags or the biscuits? Or am I also with illness as well? I think this was one of the miracles I've had. You know, because I've had the opportunity to meet enlightened teachers like Mooji and Hawkins. You know, when I went to see Mooji for a one-to-one, you know, talking about illness, physical symptoms, you know, I had this huge horrific gout attack. My feet were swollen and I was just like limping along to meet Muji in Brixton, and he just asked me, what am I? What are you beyond your thoughts? You know, and then I said, there's a witnessing. He said, is there something beyond the witnessing screen? I had a white light spiritual experience. When I came out of that, the world was like totally beautiful. I was like one, we were one with everything. Tears were streaming out because everything was so stunningly beautiful. And I didn't notice it. With hindsight, you know, all the pain had gone, it had vanished, you see. So even things like physical symptoms, let alone like problems with perceptual things that you perceive in the world, totally gone. It's like, as you get into those more limitless realms of connecting and consciousness, even it's like, you see then, this really threatens the ego. It's like just my belief in gout, and my belief that I'm a physical body, and my belief that I'm subject to huge pain and inflammation, in a split second, if you could link to the truth, it's wiped out. So it's like the awesome nature of just letting go of the junk of guilt and collective belief systems, you see. I mean, I've shared this before many times, but in terms of relationships, I go to these 12-step groups, and there was this lady. She didn't like me for many reasons, but one of them was that I used the God word a lot, and I think she might, yes, she was an atheist. But I kept using God all the time, and anyway, so she was, you know, she was quite a dominant, aggressive, very loud-mouthed person, and I guess I was kind of like a loud-mouthed person in my own way. So it was like a locking of horns, and I had a resentment of what the Course calls a grievance. And so I had to pray for her and do the Course lessons on her. And it was like, I had this energy of like I didn't like her. It was like this pit of huge dislike. And I just did all the Course stuff, sitting with feelings. I just shoved every spiritual tool I had at the problem. It took 2 or 3 weeks, but you know, one day I woke up, and it was like, you know, I knew when I woke up the resentment was gone. It's like, it's not a problem. I felt this real, genuine forgiveness. And it was like I went to my 12-step meeting, and she was there, and she came up to me. This is true, I wrote it in my book, because it was one of those miracles. She came up to me and said, Sabbir, you've helped me a lot, and just to let you know I'm leaving the country. So that was her thing, you see. She said that to me, and I wrote it in my book because it's true. It's like, the miracles that happen, you see, you're in the ego. You see, the lesson for today tied in. I've invented the world I see, you know, because my huge interest, identification with there's a me that's angry at somebody who's doing me wrong, and I was tied into this invented world. You see, so I'm not allowing the miracle to happen, you see, like was shared before. That miracles happen when you let go, you see. And the world, well, the Course says we're in a collective nightmare. You know, my own personal beliefs, which are my personal nightmare of the world I see. And there's also, the Course mentioned, which is true, we all have because we're all holding our little belief systems and creating a kind of a collective hell. And my personal hell of thought. But as you let these thoughts go, or any individual, then miracles happen. You enter into different levels of consciousness, and then you become free of the world, you see. You start to say, you know, you use Course language, like the world's an illusion, or it's a dream. You see, you need to wake up from the nightmare. Okay, so, yeah.
Is it time to ask a question?
Shall we do a quick one? Yeah.
Yeah, what it is when I was with the introduction,
yes.
Checking in, I mentioned that with the problems with my neighbour, and
yes.
It's got me into a really panic, not anxiety, panic, bad state, also angry at her for
yes.
arranging to chop my tree down, or our tree down, without telling me. But that was what I didn't say was I wanted to look below that, underneath that. And yeah, that's just almost a side issue, the neighbour, that's just like on the surface. Because there'll be another thing that will happen.
Yes.
That say like the university I've been dealing with, they want to put another planning application. When I get bad news, I'll get the same, I'll be thrown completely
Yes.
out and get panic state, anxiety. And I thought there's got to be something in common there, the underlying common, the underlying factor, the common denominator between all of them.
Yes.
Something deeper. And I just wondered if this lesson is the sort of the underlying factor that links these things that get me in a bad state or get me angry and things like that. But basically, it's an illusion. It's a lesson. I've invented the world I see.
Yes.
I just wondered if that's applicable.
Oh, 100% applicable to every single problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say two things with the application of the lesson. Is to, and the course actually does say it in lesson 14. When it gives you instructions, it doesn't say like it tells you when it says God did not create cancer, it says make it specific. Don't like God did not create illness, something very vague, which encompasses a lot. But just it's like almost like asking you to hone the personal ways that you're thinking. You see, for example, also. But you can also look for, pray for a miracle, for root belief systems, and then there are specific belief systems related to the situation. So you're also asking a very good question. So, okay, so there's one thing with like a neighbor. I have invented I've invented the neighbor I see, you see, or I've invented the planning application that I see. So. But when you're looking for root things, actually the root thing, the course does give you the roots, which is, I'm using another lesson, I'm not a victim of the world I see, I've invented the world. So those are like coming at the ego globally. You see, everything I see, I have invented. Or, I'm not a victim of anything I see in the external world or the internal world. Today's one is going outer world, inner world, outer world, inner world. So you pray to the Holy Spirit for a miracle to see what are the root belief systems, because you're quite right. They operate often via projections. So, for example, like I have a projection with angry women. You see, so it'd be like I'd meet an angry woman, and then I would say, let's say I meet a woman named Jane who's really, really, very aggressive. I'd say, my ego would say, I don't like Jane, I'm a victim of Jane. So I'd apply the course lesson, I'm not, I've invented the Jane I see. But the next day, another angry woman, I bump into another angry woman, and then, let's call her Mary. And then it's like, so you're right, there's a pattern, another angry woman, and it's like, I'm really sort of upset by this woman as well. So then what's the root thought then? Root thought is I'm not, I've invented angry women, you see. So that's the root thought. So it's good. So you find that you can apply it specifically. I've invented the neighbor I see, and then you can sometimes you pray, and by an intuition it comes to you. I have invented things not going my way in the world, you see. So you just do a bit, but it's true. You have to sometimes do a bit of investigative work. But usually I've found with the course, it just pops into your mind at a certain point. You might be doing the course lesson during the day every half an hour. Usually at the end of the day, the Holy Spirit, it's like at the beginning of the day, there's too much thought. So the Holy Spirit can't give you the answer to the lesson right in the morning. So you're doing it like every 5 minutes. I'm going, I've invented that table. Then in the next 5 minutes, I've invented the plant. And then at the end of the day, there's a big problem, and suddenly, like, I get this intuition. You see it differently. Suddenly, it's like for me, it's like the Holy Spirit suddenly goes, now you've done enough work in the day. I can give you the answer to the problem. Like let it go or something like that. But so that was a great question. And
if you self-blame yourself, this is another ego state. So,
yeah.
You can easily, maybe your thoughts.
It's a brilliant question. In fact, every spiritual seeker that starts spiritual work will start attacking themselves for not being perfect yet. you know, I did the lesson today, I should be enlightened by this afternoon, and why am I not enlightened by this afternoon? Or I know now that donuts are not good, and I make a commitment, I surrender donuts, and then the next day you're eating the donuts again. So then the attack comes on. Well, you know now, you've started spiritual work, so you know donuts are not good. So you should have got this by today already. Or how could I have been so ignorant to have made a mistake and just stolen that person's biscuits when they weren't looking, you see? So the attack thoughts come in. And if you learn the spiritual work, then of course you become more conscious of things that you weren't aware of. You know, it's like before, it's okay to indulge, you know, it's okay to do, it's okay to lie a little bit. And then as you become more conscious, you thought that was okay. It was like you're in a cloud of ignorance, and now you're coming up. Or if you do, I mean, it's a really good thing, because as you become more spiritually aware of how these things come and manifest, then you can say, well, I must have done huge bad things in the past, or whatever, and so I'm a bad person. Or, you know, I have kidney failure. I mean, what did I do? I mean, did I kill someone and rip their kidneys out in a past life, or maybe it was you know, all kinds of thoughts can come up of self-attack. So, I mean, okay, I love doing self-enquiry, and I think the best way to answer the question is to try and get a connection to your authentic state, which for me is to go to the observer. You see, when I'm in the observer, then I recognize that the problem is that I'm hooking in to something which is blocking that state of, like, absolute, there's the loss of any separation. So it's like oneness or beingness, and in that state, it's like the problem is very, very easily identified, and the route to the solution is also really, really, which is an identification or an interest in some field of the world of form, you see. So even at the level of the ego, which is thinkingness, you see, or the body, you know, like for example, if I have a cough, or if I have a sore throat right now, then if I go to the observer, what's observing the sore throat, I realize actually there's a huge amount of interest and investment. That's really, really, the attention is like hooking into that, and it's becoming part of my awareness and my consciousness, you see. Now, at the level of thoughts, you see, and one of my favorite course lessons is my attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So at the level of the observer, or the eternal stillness, or the beingness, you see, it's very, very clear. If you just quickly get an access, or try and remember an access of a spiritual state, then you realize any hooking into any thought, you see, the field of thought, and hooking in with interest to any particular thought, I could call them special thoughts. I mean, meaningless thoughts are okay, but special thoughts, like, you know, I'm a bad person, I haven't done my spiritual work properly, is what I call a meaningful thought. It's not a meaningless thought. Like the plant is green is a meaningless thought, but you know, you're a bad person, you did it wrong. So in terms of the course lesson, even each course lesson, the Holy Spirit will tell you, like I can see from today's lesson, like I've invented the thought that I'm bad or I did it wrong, that I see. Because from the level of the observer, I'm like witnessing, I can observe these thoughts. You know, I'm trying to say that, for example, my problem might be a neighbour, you know, so I will do the lesson. I've invented the neighbour I see, and then he said, well, you know, another thought may come up, well, you're a bad person for having manifested a bad neighbour next to you, so it's your fault. But then I've also invented that thought, that I'm a bad person, you see. So you just link, but these are all different fields of the identification to form. But it's definitely, I think there's no spiritual seeker that hasn't gone, started spiritual work and then said, you haven't done it good enough, you've done it wrong, you shouldn't have done that in the past. But I look at it like, because I've been helping people with spiritual stuff for years, it's like, if you start spiritual work, you know, you're going to find out so many things you've done wrong that you weren't aware of before. You know, like you're an angry, mean person, or you shouldn't have been rude to your mother, and You know, all these things come up, and then now you're going into spiritual work, you become more hyper aware. Oh, you know, I've just, because, oh, if, you know, and if I mean, the ego will try and use anything, like, if my neighbor is Christ, then I shouldn't have said, like, you know, piss off. You know, it's like, how could you say that to the Son of God, you see? So we'll come up with different things, but then you see, you're really trying to go for me to the realm of non-form and identifying, so asking the Holy Spirit, in what way am I hooking into the realm of form, you see? Even all thoughts. You see, one of the first lessons in A Course in Miracles is all my thoughts are meaningless. All my thoughts are meaningless. That's why for me, this cuts above therapy and 12 steps. 12 steps and therapy, and prayer is very, very good. Like from Hawkins, praying generally, like 12-step prayers are 540 unconditional love. But for me, the lessons in A Course in Miracle are at the level of enlightenment. You know, it gives no basis for a separate identity to be relating to other separate identities. Whereas in traditional religion, it's still quite advanced, but it still operates with, I'm going to still be a separate identity at the end of the prayer. So it's like, you know, dear God, I humbly ask you to remove my resentment against my neighbour. Please help me treat it with the same patience, tolerance, kindness and love that I would grant a sick person. That's a 12-step prayer. But it's still accepting that there's a me forgiving a you see. And at the end of it, it's like, I have forgiven you, but you're still you, and I'm still me. Whereas the Course is like dissolving the I. So we're going to the state of oneness, you know, where there is no... And when you're in the oneness, you realize there was nothing to forgive after all, or it was all a dream. So we're going to a more advanced state of consciousness where there is no separation. So you have to... These are higher level belief systems that we're disentangling. But all thoughts, for me actually, if you want to get those higher states of beingness or presence, it's like every thought has to be meaningless. It's just... Or not even thoughts. I mean, thoughts are one aspect of form. You know, the body, identification with the body is another huge layer, and this is very, very threatening. I was speaking with someone who's so threatened by the belief system. I cancel my I'm not a body, I'm free, for I was God created me, because it was just too threatening, you see. And speaking to this individual, and they were saying, you know, I just need to be in my body. So it was like, and there's so much stuff today in the literature about being in the body. You know, it's a very, very sort of in thing at the moment. So this was just too much to handle. I'm not a body. I mean, there's a place for everything. You know, it's like a step ladder where you can take it. Therapy is good for people. Treatment centres, if you've got addiction, are good at if that's what you need. Or therapist is good for, and this is very advanced. Course in Miracles is like every thought is on the chopping block. Even the idea, the heavy interest in the body is on the chopping block. The idea that you need special relationships is on the chopping block. So it's very, very threatening through, you know. But one of the things in there that I wrote is what's called the God box. It's one of the tools that I wrote, which is that, and it's a traditional thing in some of the spiritual circles that I go, is you have a little God box. And anything...
God box?
Yeah, it's called, well, it's just a box,
sorry,
really.
Yeah.
Can I get some paper? I've forgotten my name.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
okay, yeah.
Oh, in front of the camera.
What do you need?
Sorry.
Oh, this?
No.
That's not late.
Oh, you want paper?
Yeah.
So.
Is the it's the thank you. It's the God box. It's just nothing amazing. Just a cardboard box. Any box will do. And you just write down anything that troubles you, and you just stick it in the box, and then symbolically you let it go. You know, and that's been used for a very long time and with a lot of success. So it's one of the tools that I have. So it's just like, if you're struggling with something, write it down like you're going to surrender it. Just stick it in the box, and it's like, I surrender this to God. It's not my business any longer. I'm not going to think about it. And you stick it in the box. And often they say, like, you can check it up later in a few weeks or months or whatever, and see what happened with it. but yeah, that is a traditional thing, and yes, I do relate to that. And also, yeah, you know, I think it's a great way. You know, I actually had someone who with my, you know, I do these newsletters with YouTube videos on them, and someone said that they use my YouTube videos to go to sleep.
Right.
So, but it's traditional. It does work. You know, if I put on a Hawkins or Muji or something spiritual with a high vibration,
Yeah.
it's a very, very good way of just nodding off to sleep. You know, something like the course would be like 10 hours of the course. If you put that on, that's probably guaranteed to send you to sleep. And I think it's a brilliant. Yeah, and please, you want to say something?
No.
I think it's a brilliant way. It's one of the things that I also mentioned in my book, which is listening to spiritual teachers or spiritual teachings, because if you really, really want a good spiritual connection, then you want to be having, you know, with Hawkins' research, everything has a vibration. You see, if you, thank you, Lucia. If you, so everything can be calibrated as to what's its spiritual vibration. So something like gangster rap music. Gangster rap music calibrates at about 70 on a map of 0 to 1,000. So it's really, really very, very deep into the ego realm. You know, gangster, you know, like let's shoot everyone dead, let's kill everyone, mug them, take their money, and that vibration of the music. You see, if you want to listen to that type of stuff, then that will, you know, it won't be conducive in the long term. The thing with addiction is that in the short term there seems to be a short-term spiritual state, which it is in fact a spiritual state. So with food, alcohol, drugs, whatever, you do actually get a glimpse of God, but it's artificial. But it's not what I'd say is not the true pathway to God. So it's using a false pathway. Yeah.
You know, because obviously I've got a drug past, and I was active recently, and it's very interesting that you say that, because I totally had awareness that it's artificial.
Yes.
But knowing that it's artificial really helped me.
Yes.
So I knew, you know, that obviously, because God is God.
Yes.
Okay, it's true as in any state, whether you eat something or you don't, you will experience God if you're open to that. And if I let go of realizing that it's artificial, how to say that? Realizing that it's artificial actually took off this artificiality.
Yes.
And allowed and left me with pure God, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously there needs to be a certain realization, because prior to that, in the past, I would look to repeat the experience with the same means, but now I don't, because how to say that? Anyway, I believe that experience, that God cannot be, you know, only the way to God can be a shortcut or whatever. Yes. But I had this authentic, actually part of my relief I've mentioned before at the beginning, and going to a new state, was that I have accepted all the artificial ways.
Yes.
Okay, I can take stairs upstairs or I can take a lift.
Yes.
I'm gonna get there anyway.
Yes.
You know, and if I'm gonna leave the story about this being artificial, then I get the real experience.
Yeah.
But I need to be aware that this experience is not a way, so I don't keep on repeating and, you know, and making it happen and stuff like that. So, hi. So I just said that, you know, if I was aware that, when I was aware that it's artificial, and that I would not like to create it again as the way to getting to God.
Yes.
With that realization, that would work more or less. But anyway, yes.
Yeah. Once you realize the nature of it, it's not really, you're not going to do it again and again, because you realize it's entrapment, essentially.
Actually, it made my meditation experience, it deepened my meditation experience, because I got to such a deep meditative states, and once I experienced them, I did not try to copy them again with as joint,
Mhm.
but I knew they are there. And that was amazing because I thought, oh my God, I can repeat it anytime I want without a why, because I've experienced that and I've been there. And as long as I don't put anything in between, like, oh, how am I going to do it, or I cannot do it without marijuana or whatever, then I'm just going there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So my meditation experience is much, it's easier.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And
Just with the God box, do you put your request there, or you just put the problem?
you just put the problem. It's not a request. It's something you want to let go.
Okay.
It's a bit like, okay, so the God box is really interesting. It's like, am I in my ego going to manage the situation which I'm struggling with? Which is symbolic of, I have a problem and I have a God box, and it's like I've been like frustrated. I mean, it could be like, for example, I have a horrible neighbor, you see, and it's like, she's doing something wrong all the time, and it's like in my head I'm frantically thinking, how should I do it this way? Should I say that to her? Should I write something to her? Should I just be really, really firm with her? So it's like in the realm of my ego. I'm giving this assignment, problem, bad neighbor, assignment, ego, you find a solution and keep finding a solution to make sure that the neighbor gives the right outcome. So the God box is basically the thing of like, look, I just want, usually it's like, I just can't handle the situation any longer. I'm just at the point of surrendering. I'm trying to think of solutions. I've run out. I'm being driven mad by this problem. So it's just, you write it down, I'm surrendering my neighbor to God. You manage the whole problem. I don't know how you're going to manage the problem, but I'm delegating this problem to God. And whatever happens, it's your business. I'm just going to leave it from my head and give it to God. God, you're going to be a better. I hope that you'll be a better manager and organize the situation, but it's your will, and I'm surrendering it.
So it's a surrender box.
It's a surrender. It's saying
It is a surrender box.
It's a surrender box. Basically, it's like, I can't handle.
Surrender God box.
Yeah, it's a surrender thing. I can't handle the neighbor. I don't know how to handle it, and God, you, whatever you decide, it's up to you.
Okay.
But I've heard things like God's a better manager than I am somewhere.
It's good because it takes, it's what we try to do all the time, but it kind of takes the burden of trying so hard to do it anyway because you have a physical thing.
Yeah.
So it's it's a bit easier because you can, if it starts again, you can go, no, that one is in the box, and you can even check.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how bad I am. Like, remind myself.
Yeah.
Look, shut up, it's in the box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing it as well as you said, this physical thing gets it out of your head.
Yes.
It's a physical act.
I think,
Rather than thinking,
Yeah.
I hand it over to God, I pray as I hand it over to God.
Yeah.
This is a prayer, but actually a physical prayer.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's very, very powerful, symbolic, like you're right. The physical act, like if you just say it mentally, I've had it over, it's very easy, it's still, but you write it out, I can't handle the situation any longer, I'm delegating, I'm surrendering it, put it in the box. And somehow if you put it in that traditional God box, many people have had like miracles, it's more easier to just, and it comes from the thing of that, it comes from the faith, but the faith of all spiritual work is that when you hand it over, there's miracles happen. If you completely hand it over, if you're like taking it back and going no, or I want to, I think I'm going to be better than God, then you see, why? Because you get that connection. Usually, if there's something you're so angry or fearful or frustrated with, it's like if God is like having no obscuring of the ego, like frantically thinking, that's obscuring the presence of God, that light, that peace, that stillness, then that frantic thinking is blocking it. So if you can like hand it over And usually something which is creating, I mean, anything can create a problem. It could be a neighbor, it could be a physical condition, or it could be whatever it is, or it could be the money situation, but traditionally these things have always, if there's a surrender, to the extent, for me I see it, to the extent you really surrender it, God can come in. To the extent you don't surrender it, and you just have to keep thinking about it, or keep like prodding the solution, to that extent, symbolically you're saying to God, I can handle the situation. You know, I don't need your help, God.
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm going to use my intellect and my excessive thinking. I don't really trust you. I probably do trust you, but I'm going to deal with it for now, you know, and deal with it. But I've had, and this is common throughout the whole literature. You know, when you surrender something, a miracle comes in, and I've never had a thing where God has not come in when I've gone to a place of deep surrender. I mean, you could say that the point is, how do you get to that point of deep surrender? But you know, there's different ways, yeah?
If you want to do some self-enquiry.
So just because some people may be leaving. But I just wanted to offer, I mean, I just felt it appeal to offer with anyone who's about to leave to do self-enquiry, if either of you wanted to. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so, okay, so, in this moment now, yes, how would you identify yourself experientially? We're just talking about this moment.
Quite calm.
Okay, and quite calm. So, in this moment, are you limited in any way? Is there any sense of limitation experientially in this moment?
I can feel it at the edges if I allow it in.
Okay, so there's an I that's feeling quite calm, but it's kind of like holding it together a bit, sort of. Yeah, okay, so it's like a focused I. So how are you, so where is this I? What is this I? You say there's an I, like sort of holding it together or experiencing some calm. If there's an I, there's a sense of something, some form of a you that's separate. How are you sensing this I?
Through thought.
Okay, good. So there's thinking.
And when there's not thinking, then I don't have that.
Okay, so, yeah, carry on. So when there's, okay, that's great. So when thinking occurs and I exists, that's brilliant. Okay, good. So that's already very advanced. So in this moment, are you a thought?
Going in and out of it.
Okay, good. So there's an in and out of thoughts. There's a hooking in and there's an expansion. There's a hooking into thought and then there's an expansion. So this going in and out, suddenly there's a hooking into thought and there's an I, and then there's the limitlessness that goes. So something is here right now. So allow this process to occur. I and hooking into thought and then the limitlessness that is here. As this process is going on, hooking into thought and I exists and then there's limitless, something is observing this going in and out of hooking in and out, which is not the going in and out. So something is hooking into thought, that I exists, then there's a more limitless experiencing, but something is here which is observing both this hooking in and then limitlessness. There's an observer of the phenomena happening, which is not the phenomena. So can you go to that observer? Okay, so now, in this moment, is there any limitation?
No.
Okay, good. So what's seen there is that there is an observer of anything that can go in and out. But this observer that observes the in and out is not subject. This is peaceful. It's not affected. So just so it's a meaningless phenomena. You see. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so do you want to go?
Sure.
Okay. So, in this moment, experientially, how are you experiencing you?
I don't know if I can put a label on it.
No, you don't have to. So just say, no, there's nothing there.
No, I can
Oh,
get
there's something
the
there.
sensation.
Okay, the
Yeah,
sensation.
like I don't know if it was a self-consciousness or...
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's an experience of some consciousness, sort of like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this experiencing of consciousness, like in a location, which is just coming up now. So that's like a phenomena that can be here and not be here. Like probably in your room at home, it wasn't there, and it's here now. So it's a phenomena that can arise and be here or not be here. Yeah. So that means that there is something here that can observe. It's like a cloud, or it's like an object. You see, self-consciousness, sometimes it's observed, it's not here, and sometimes so there has to be an observer here which is aware of this phenomena coming and going, which is not the phenomena. So it's okay to allow that thing, that whatever, that sensation in a location, but something is here that's observing this self-consciousness, which is not self-consciousness. So can you go to that which is observing?
I'm also slipping in and out.
Okay, so in and out. So can you go to that which is observing the in and out?
I'm getting various body sensations which I feel are
Yeah.
holding me back.
Okay.
But I think at the back of them is some fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this moment, how are you experiencing you in this moment?
My sensation in the head again, temples.
Okay. So allow that to be here.
Mm.
So there's a sensation in the head and temples. So that's something. So that's something that is here now.
Mm.
Probably like 2 weeks ago, probably wasn't here.
Mm.
Mm. So it's like an object. There's a big sensation in your head.
Mm.
So there is an observer of this because you know it. You see, and 2 weeks ago there was something here which was observing that it's not here. So there's something, it's here. So something is observing this because you know it. Like if there's a camera in front of me, then I'm actually observing the camera. The camera is not me. Like I'm quite clear that it's an object. I am observing, and when the camera's wouldn't be here, I would know that I'm still the observer that knows there's no camera here, you see. So it's okay, I mean the camera can still be here, but I am the observer of the camera.
Mm.
So, okay, there is a sensation in the head. So can you go to that which is observing the sensation in the head?
slipped into something else.
Okay, so what's being experienced now?
Felt like I was looking at the pain.
Good.
Just like noticing it.
Is there a problem now?
Mm. I feel like the ego, the thoughts, wants to come back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these thoughts, let the thoughts happen. Thoughts are happening, yes?
Yeah.
There is something here, look, there's little thoughts popping up. Something observes thoughts, yeah? So it's okay, if a lot of little thoughts want to sort of pop up, that's fine. But there is an observer of thoughts, which observes all the thoughts, which is just observing them. There's an observer that's observing the thoughts, which is not the thoughts. So thoughts are like objects, you see. Suddenly if like 3 or 4 people run up and down the room, you see, and we're like waving their hands, 3 or 4 people, you see, if you recognize it, you're actually not the little people running up and down the room. You're that which is observing the people running up and down the room. So the people running along the room are like objects going this way and that way. But there's actually an observer of the people. So they're not, it's fine if they're here and they're running and they're waving their hands. But one can get to a place of clarity that actually I'm the observer of these people who are running up and down the room. I'm not the people, just because they're here, running around and waving their hands. One could get confused and think I am the people. But actually, one can come to clarity that even if there was these people running and they're waving at you, you are actually that which is silently observing these people. So these little thoughts, you see, that's fine. Let them be there. But can you be the observer of these thoughts? Can you go to the observer of the thoughts?
Feel presence. I'm not aware of the thoughts.
Good. That's the presence. So just be the observer, don't hook in. Isn't it good? Thank you.
What's funny, it's amazing at the same time, is that it's so simple and calm, and all my life I thought I was searching for a high of some sort, like some extreme pleasure of some sort.
Yes, that's the thought, that you don't want to hook into that thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it time for another self-enquiry?
Yeah, there's time for everyone. I was just trying to fit people in case they were trying to go away.
Is that what we do it? Because I've never stayed till the end, so I don't know.
Sorry?
Does everyone get self-enquiry?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that's the. I love giving self-inquiry, even though I think it's a bit threatening to do that right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, thank you. I really do actually. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Thank you. Lovely energy in this room.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry I have to
No,
leave.
yeah, no, No, that's okay. You're free to come and go as you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish you miracles and presence at work. So, yeah, everyone gets we want self-inquiry. We want self-inquiry. Okay, so, but we'll speak in the week. Yeah.
I'll stay a bit longer, but I don't think I want something.
No, you don't have to.
Just happy to hear about the
Yeah.
questions and stuff.
Yeah,
We go in about 10 minutes now.
sure. Bye. Bye, Rupa.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, before you had a question.
Maybe just carry on with the self-inquiry.
You want to carry on with self-inquiry?
I don't know, it's up to you. It's not really, yeah. Because you're in the flow already. It's up to you.
What was the question? Do you remember it? I don't remember it.
Yes, I do remember it.
Okay, you do
It was
remember.
about the lesson, you know, what is the underlying
Oh,
lesson?
yeah. Oh, the underlying lesson. Yeah, that was a great question. I remember it now.
Yeah, I don't know, if you, yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Whichever, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll answer the question. I'll answer the question first. My interpretation, of course, is just my view on
Sure, yeah.
whatever it is. But so the course for me is like spiritual genius. It's my view on it. It's like, if there was something that was omniscient, omnipresent, that source, or the source, which is not for me a person as such, then you'd be able to have a bird's eye view of the underpinnings and some of the core belief systems which hold the ego in place. You'd know how to get those really global, what I call global belief systems, which shatter the structure of the ego's belief systems. And for me, the course is, it is aimed, from calibration at enlightenment. How to totally dismantle the ego to experience, to release. You could say, be released from the dream of separation. How to totally dismantle every single structure. So it's 365 lessons, and they're given in divine order, in divine sequence, understanding the nature of the ego. So it's like, lesson 1 is like, only bother to do it twice a day. Don't even do it for more than a couple of minutes twice a day. And the languaging, even though actually the languaging does ramp up very rapidly in the course, it's trying to ease you in gently, to try and say, just all the way the languaging of the thing is like, whether you believe it or not, don't worry about it, just say it. It's, the table is meaningless. It doesn't, it's not necessarily saying on lesson 1 that your whole world is an illusion, but just saying practically just do that, and then the next day it's like giving you another angle to release the ego. Yes, for me the Holy Spirit or divine nature is in the background, like creating miracles and shifts in perceptions. But for me, a shift in perception is just releasing some identification, some form of hooking into the illusory separate ideas that are held within the collective. Ideas like I'm a body, ideas like my thoughts are meaningful, which are then creating a whole illusory world. And each illusory world is a level of consciousness. So as you unhook more thoughts, you get to more and more fields of what I'd say you're going towards limitless. In the beginning it's huge fear, a great immense fear and guilt, and very much a very, very strong feeling of separation. I'm located in this body, and everyone is a separate body. And of course, when you're cut off, for me, when you're really hooked into thoughts in the body, that's the place for things like suicidal thoughts, addiction, life-threatening illnesses. Those are all part of the collective nightmare when you're very, very disconnected from the source, from the beingness, from the love, the light, the sense of no separation. So there, all the nightmares things really tend to manifest quite well. All your neighbours tend to be like demons. I don't know why I said that. You know, and your relationships, you know, you seem to have the worst relationship on the planet. And in terms of physical ailments, you seem to have every single physical ailment. I need a machine for 8 hours a day to keep me alive. I have to use a little inhaler to try and breathe air in this world. All kinds of things start to nightmare relationships, nightmare physical complaints, nightmare addictions where you just can't stop eating foods which make you feel fat and unattractive and hideous. So all of these nightmare things exist at that very, very low, what I call extreme separation. You know, and then as you do the work, you're going to higher levels. So it's less, now you start to feel a bit more okay, and the sense of body is starting to become looser. You forget it sometimes. And you think, yeah, I'm still a person, but actually everyone in the room is actually quite a lovely person. You know, I can see everyone's beautiful in their own way, and I feel a kind of a love and an empathy. And then you're starting to go into what I call the beingness, or the limitlessness, or there is no even sense that there's a separate body. And actually your sense of identity is gone. And you actually, Mooji says this a lot, he's talking to consciousness, you see. For him it's like, and I see that as very, very powerful for an enlightened teacher. It's like, he's trying to say, look, this crap, you believe you're a body and you're separate over there, and these thoughts that you're thinking are just important. You know, I don't see that. That's all crap. You know, there's nothing. This is. You know, I'm not going to buy your shit. Basically, he's saying the truth is the truth, and you know what you're saying is just all rubbish. You see, in a polite way. You know, it's all rubbish. So anyway, to come back to the question. So each lesson is going, and it's like have the faith to do the lesson from the source. And then, yes, the Holy Spirit is... But for me, what is the Holy Spirit doing? It's just very simple, unhooking the pre-existing hooks into different aspects of form, different aspects of thought, different aspects of hooking into the physical form, or different aspects of, like, seeing, oh, you're over there, and you're a separate body. All this unconscious filtering, you're a separate body that's over there, and you must be something called, you know, your name. You see, all of these things, we need to like unhook that. So, you know, the later lessons, the middle lessons are very much going into the way I perceive it. You know, to see, often it says like to see your holy brother as sinless, you know, without sin. And, you know, without, you know, related to guilt. So it's like, if I'm holding guilt, I'll tend to project it out and see everyone else as the guilt in everybody else. I'll project it out there. So, you know, I'll see myself as being guilty. Sometimes when I look, I'm bad, I did wrong. So, and sometimes I'll think, oh, you know, oh, that person shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have eaten that extra cake. They're guilty too for doing that, you see. So, sinlessness is just a way for me, if they're totally sinless, then I'll unhook from the world of separation and projection. You see, and then I actually not see them as a form, separate from me, because I'll be free of projecting any form of guilt, which is then tying me into, so now I'll be like, actually that sinless means without, for me, if they're totally sinless, there is no hook into form. That, you know, because, you know, you could say on some level, any hooking into form is entering into the world of separation. And that's really quite, that sounds a bit sort of languagey, but when you experience the beingness, the limitlessness, and you're not really aware of your body, and it's just spaciousness and oneness, you know, that's actually, there is no separation. So it's just these little hooks. Anyway, so then it's sort of, it's agreeing with an idea of an illusion. Within the illusion, we say, the Course is saying that, you know, yes, there is a brother and I forgive him. But later on in the Course it's saying actually, once you realise the truth, you realise there was nothing ever to forgive. Actually, even at the end of the course, it says you can throw away the book now. If you've really got the book, you know, like, you know, you don't need to say I'm a victim of this plant any longer, because you're now in a state where that's so ridiculous. Anyway, you can't buy into it any longer. So it's like, yeah, okay.
Good luck.
So how are you experiencing? We're just getting to this moment.
Okay.
Okay, we're just coming to right now in this moment. So in this moment, and we're talking about your experience in this moment.
In this moment, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this moment, how are you experiencing you?
I've got, it's two things, one's physical and one's in my head, there's tension there, and then there's a emotion in my stomach, which is like a dread.
Okay.
So it's two things, yeah, a dread feeling.
So there's tension and dread. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So there has been a time, I remember, when there hasn't been tension here and dread here. So I do remember there was a time when these two things weren't here. So these are things then which are like objects, basically. What do I mean by that? They're like objects. Well, there are things that can sometimes be here and sometimes not be here. Yeah. So it's like, what could I mean by that? For example, like today, I can see a camera in front of me. That's what I'd call an object, you know. And sometimes I'm looking, and I can't see a camera in front of me. So it's a thing that can sometimes be here or not be here. Yet I'm still here, the observer, that knows that today this camera object is here, and some days the camera object is not there. So then I can gain a certain clarity that I am actually, even if I see a camera, I am not the camera. I am the observer of the camera, and I can observe when it's here as an object and when it's not here as an object. So right now, for me, I am observing the camera, and I'm quite clear. I'm not the camera. I am observing the camera. I have that clarity. Okay, so there is sensations in the head and in the chest. Can you go to that which is observing these sensations?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So there's observing of the sensations. Is there any problem or limitation now?
Any, sorry, problem?
Is there a problem right now?
Yeah, because it's like the tension in my head is noticeable, and the dread is well, it's sort of going away. I don't know why.
Okay. So can you be the observer of these things? That's observing them.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a problem? For the observer, is there a problem?
Well, the tension in my head doesn't feel good.
Okay. So the tension in my head does not feel good. So that means that there's a you that doesn't like the tension.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is that correct right now? There's a you that doesn't like the tension.
That's right.
Okay,
yes.
good. So introduce me experientially. Where is this you? What is this you that doesn't like the tension?
Where is it, you said?
Where or what is it?
I don't know what the you is.
Okay. All right then. So then there's tension. Now go to the observer of the tension and also the observer of all thoughts. You know, like for example, the thought that there's a me that doesn't like the tension. Just let let that thought go. You see, there is some thoughts making an edit or a description of what's going on. So let those thoughts go. Just go to the observer of all thoughts and the tension. Can you do that?
Yeah, it's the observer of the me.
Yes, the
Yeah.
observer of the you, that's right.
For me, that's doesn't like the tension. Is it an out-of-body experience?
That's also a thought.
Okay.
So that it's also observing that thought. Is it an out-of-body experience? So let that thought go.
Observing.
What's observing or watching or witnessing?
Okay, I can see that now. Yeah. Yeah. I'm observing that you, which is the me,
Good.
which doesn't like the tension in my head.
Good. Okay. Now, is there any problem in this moment?
No, but the dread in my stomach's come back now. Yeah, with that, there's not a problem with that tension in my head, but the other part has come back.
Okay. So there is okay. So the dread in the stomach. Something is observing the dread in the stomach. You see. So it's okay. The dread in the stomach is like an object. Just like I can see a table, there is something which is observing the dread. So sometimes there's not dread here, and sometimes there is dread here. So it's like an object. So go to that which is observing the dread, which is not the dread. So there's that, yes?
Yes, I'm observing the dread.
So there is this observer of all of these things. Is there any problem here?
Just the feeling of dread,
Well,
which I don't like.
okay, so something is observing the thoughts, and all the thoughts are meaningless, so whatever thoughts come up, there is an observation of all of these thoughts.
Even the feelings as well.
And the feelings, yeah. Something is observing the feelings and the thoughts. So it's okay if they're there, but it just observes them without hooking in. So there's an observer that is observing all the thoughts without any interest, and there's an observer which is observing the body without any interest or hooking in. So can you go to this observer?
Yeah, observing feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Okay, yeah. Is there a problem here?
No.
No. Okay, so this observer is observing everything and is not hooking in, it's not interested.
Detached.
It's detached, that's right. It just watches, If I'm observing a chair, but it's not really an issue. I'm observing a cup, but it's not really an issue. It's quite meaningless, you see. It's detached observing. You see, like, so what? So what? I'm observing a chair. It's not creating anything. Something, observing thoughts. So what? The thoughts are being observed. These feelings are also being observed. Now, the observer is always here. It's only if you give meaning or interest to any particular thought or feeling, then well, I don't advise you do that. You're not. These are things that you've invented and you hook into, but actually there is an observation of them. The observer is always here. It may seem to go only if there is a hooking into something.
Sorry, the last thing you said was?
The observer is always here.
Yeah.
The state of limitlessness is always here. It can only seem to disappear if you become You said detached. If you become attached, interested in any particular form, then suddenly identity occurs, separation occurs.
Stay like this and try and stay.
Yeah, you stay by that, by not looking into the thought trying. You let go of the thought trying to stay here. Yeah, that's meaningless as well. All your thoughts are meaningless. It's okay if they happen.
I feel bad because it was so difficult to detach. You know, I'm so
That's
attached.
a thought. You see,
Thought,
you
yeah.
forget that thought. I feel bad.
Yeah.
So all these thoughts, they come now.
Yeah.
They're all meaningless.
Even though it was hard to detach, that's a thought as well.
That's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
forget that thought. Yeah. And the next thing suddenly comes. Oh, but that also that's a thought. You see. Yeah, but what about thought comes up next? Forget that thought as well.
Okay, that's part of staying detached.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Stop thinking. All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. That's good. Sorry, I have to go.